Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this D-Zone Virtual Roundtable. We've just released our latest trend report, Enterprise AI, the emerging landscape of knowledge engineering, which you can download right now on dzone.com. AI has continued to change the way the world views what is technologically possible, moving from theoretical to things we can actually do. The emergence of technologies like ChatGPT allowed users of all backgrounds to leverage the power of AI. Now, companies across the globe are taking a deeper dive into their own AI and machine learning capabilities and measuring the modes of success needed to become truly AI-driven, moving beyond what we used to call just business intelligence and expanding into more innovative use cases, such as security, automation, and performance. We're excited to be discussing these topics with you today. Hey, if you find our conversation today valuable and want to see more content just like this, head on over to dzone.com/events to see all of our on-demand content. I'm ready to do some introductions. I'm Jesse, Chief Technologist here at D-Zone, and the moderator for today's discussion. With me is a whole distinguished panel of experts, each bringing a wealth of knowledge and a unique perspective. Dr. Tuan, wave. Professor of AI and Blockchain at the Jagdeep Sheth School of Management. And you wrote the article, Introduction to Generative AI, in the Trend Report. Thanks a lot for that. Kellen Gorman, hey, Director of Data and AI at Silk, wrote the welcome letter. Pratik, back with us, Principal Solution Architect at Capital One, wrote the Evolution of Conversational AI, which was a really cool article. Thanks for that. Boris, Lead Solution Architect at CloudAstro, wrote the article on achieving data excellence. Eran Yahav, CTO of Tab9, suite software product, as well as Matthew Groves, DevRel engineer over at Couchbase. Welcome, everyone. We're excited you're here. And we're going to talk a lot about statistics and questions, and y'all are all very familiar with the trend report. But to set the stage, I wanted to talk a little bit about some bigger market statistics, right? Right now, AI market size valued right about 7.2 billion back, last year, and is projected to reach 51.9 billion by 2030 with a compound annual growth rate of 28%. Now, what's even more staggering is the AI market on software development is projected to grow from about 2-ish billion to 19.6 billion by 2030. So there's a lot of growth in the software development market for AI. That's like a 40% annual growth rate. So we know that it's important. We know that things are growing like GitHub Copilot and tools and Tab9. A lot of this is there, but when you think about usage of AI in different organizations, right? We had to understand kind of what's behind it. So one of the questions we asked was, how often are you encouraged to use AI in your organization? And 83% said sometimes, often, all the time. So we know this is top of mind, right? So another question that we asked was, which of the following do you consider worthwhile applications of AI and ML in the enterprise? Number one, I want your take on this. We're gonna get started. Number one is predictive analytics. 2, chatbots, virtual assistants, and 3, fraud detection and security. So what do you think about what the developers in our responses said was worthwhile? Do you agree, disagree? Anyone go first, jump in there.
I can start.
Go for it.
So basically I can agree with this topic, but with some extent, in my point of view, there are a lot more options. For example, we had the projects that not only based on IoT sphere, but also the customer involved AI to use it as the anomaly detection as well. So when something went wrong, it's automatically analyzed the logs of the factory machines, and it provides some predictability statistic for operator. So really useful things.
Okay, yeah, anomaly detection. That's a good one. That's a good one that's missing. What do you think, Dr. Tuan?
Yeah, so I completely agree with the way they said, and let me throw some light over here. Like they said, the first thing is the predictive analytics. Now, when we are talking about predictive analytics, the entire gamut of the statistical models, the entire machine learning models, model development, model comparison, model validation, and of course, even before the model development, the pre-processing of the data, the entire thing are automated by AI these days, right? So that's why this AI is so very vital for this predictive analytics part. That is point number one. Coming to the second point about all the virtual assistants and everything. AI should, and not only should, it actually does dramatically deletes or omits all the routine tasks so that the human mind can really work on the more strategic things. Not that the AI can't do the strategic things as well. The more the AI evolves, we are heading towards an era of artificial general intelligence, right? So even the human faculty, the cognitive aspects can also be, the decisions can also be taken into consideration with these models. So it is obvious that the routine tasks should be and must be done for the betterment of the organization, for betterment of even the human beings, even at personal levels. We need not do all the kind of routine tasks by ourselves. And last but not the least, how to leverage the power of AI to keep all the malicious things around us away. Absolutely. So all the fraud detection models, not only about the anomaly detection, a bunch of models go there. And AI is the best way to figure out where exactly you can pinpoint by applying multiple models, where from the fraud originates, where it actually operates, and how we can take the preventive measures. The most important thing. Say if you swipe a credit card, right, in a fraction of a second, you have to figure out that literally a fraction of a second, whether it's a kind of fraud transaction or not. And not only about the credit card, in multiple other ways. Of course, AI plays a vital role. I completely in sync with what the survey results say.
Very cool. All right, Matthew, and then I'm going to go into another question.
Sure. Just a quick comment. I think I agree a lot with Dr. Tuin there is that those are very popular use cases. I think as developers, we're only scratching the surface of what AI can do right now. Machine learning has a track record of being good for predictive analytics. But what we're going to see is a whole new category of applications come out of generative AI. At Couchbase, we're kind of calling them adaptive applications because they're going to adapt to a user's preferences without them having to explicitly give all those preferences up front. It's going to draw from user profile information, user activity, analytics, and build a customized experience. So that's not really something that's on there because I think it's very cutting edge, but I think that's the next iteration of what we can expect to see.
Very cool.
Can I append onto that?
You can, but I'm going to call on you on the next one. So.
Okay, just real quick. I would like to see a lot of that adaptive behavior in AI to go back into the security issue. We're seeing this brand new breach from AT&T, the data from Change Health. This is a real concern that it would be able to adapt and look at some of the advanced, ransomware and security issues that we have, that it would be able to address some of that. It's in sore need right now.
Good comment. All right, Kellen, now you're up. We were talking a little bit before on AI or non-AI and all the things in between. I don't want to spark the debate because we all know the truth. It's not. But in a lot of discussions, we do have polarizing views around deep neural networks, right? Where we're starting to lean towards what could become real AI, right? Particularly around the black box nature. There's a lot of hesitations and challenges, and you've got, this company building a giant boat going offshore with a bunch of, NVIDIA chips in it. But we did ask a question about deep neural networks, and I'd like your input on it first, and then we'll go to Eran and Pratik. But the outputs of deep neural networks are too unexplained or black box to be useful. Do you agree or disagree? The results, 34% were neutral, 25 disagree, 15 agree, right? And then no opinion and all that kinds. But the results are mixed, right? Not a strong opinion. People not leaning strongly. Why do you think that's the case?
I think because they don't get consistent results. Because you add complexity, you would think that you would get better results from it. And that's not true just because the nature of DNNs. You add these extra layers in there and you think that the percentage of, actual results from it would actually increase, and it doesn't. It just doesn't. And they've shown that over and over again. There's really great books out on there. And of course, the author skips my name. And maybe Doctor has it as well. But this is really, I think, vital as people start to invest into this technology. If it doesn't result in, if it doesn't end with good results, people are going to step back from it. And I think that's what you're seeing in that, your actual data.
Very interesting. And Eran, I want to get your input on this too, because if anybody's going to build one, it's going to be a developer, right? And
Yeah.
they're going to be using tools to build it, right? These are the guys and gals working on it. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think when we look at DNNs, or it doesn't actually matter what the technology is, the bottleneck is the human, right? So it is a question of delegation. We are actually delegating some tasks to an entity. We are offshoring work to Silicon instead of offshoring it to human developers somewhere else. And the same rules of delegation apply. When I get the result back, somebody has to check that what I got is correct, right? And it doesn't really matter if I offshore it to some development team. I don't know how they work. I don't get an explanation of all the steps that they made, right, in order to write the software. I just need a way to verify that what I got is what I originally wanted, which is not necessarily easy. So in order to leverage the technology effectively, I think that the secret is to find the delegation boundaries in which it is easy for me to define what I want and easy for me to kind of validate that what I wanted is what I got. So again, I'm not surprised by the survey results because people basically said, if I look at the results, they're not super concerned about, whether DNNs get explainable results or not, right? So
Interesting. All right, Pratik, we haven't heard anything from you yet. Let's hear something. What do you think about neural networks before we open this thing up to other people?
I can see a pattern in a region why we have a mixed result out of there. But first of all, I agree, like it's opaque in nature, or it's at least it's obfuscated in nature. And why we have a mixed result? Because the people having, each enterprise have a different pattern of continuous compliance, governance, and auditability. So the companies or enterprises which are not much bothered about the auditability or the continuous compliance, they will not care about the intermediate stage of the neural network layers. What they care about is the input and output that matters. But the companies which are heavily regulated and they are focusing onto the continuous compliance. So there is a difference between compliance and the continuous compliance. So the companies who are focusing onto the continuous compliance will see it as an opaque because they can't have the fine-grained control or the visibility of the intermittent layers of the neural networks. That's why I can see like there is a mixed result out there. So it depends how the companies are seeing their auditability and the continuous compliance in that aspect. But I definitely feel like it is not a transparent, it has obfuscated in nature. That's why it has that kind of a result. But obviously, like people are getting excited about it because the immense capability and the immense capability of the modeling that is bringing onto the table. There is no replacement of the deep neural network or the neural network. So everyone is excited about it. Having said that, have some opacity or obfuscation in nature.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Tuen, you raise your hand. What you want to say?
Yeah. So let me take a completely different view here. And gone are those days when neural networks or deep neural networks were black box. Explainable AI has come for quite a lot of years these days, almost 4 or 5 years. And the black box are illuminated. Exactly which functions work, how much weight are being given to each of the functions in the nodes of the neurals are being documented with the help of AI. So nowadays, of course, I shall not promote any platform here. I shall not name any platform here. But then there are platforms. Not only they run the model, not only do they develop the model, validate the model, but also simultaneously they create the complete illumination of the black box through the documentation in an automated way, exactly which functions, how much weight, why this function, all the things are being detailed. So I would say to a large extent, AI, a separate model, is working on the AI model to illuminate the black box.
Okay.
I would add on.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it will also depends like how you are implementing your ML ops. So if you are persisting the intermittent stage of each neurons and each flow of the learning, then obviously you are getting to a compliant or a transparent state. But it depends how the companies or the models are implementing their ML ops.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I wanna move to well, y'all want to talk about this one a lot. All right, go Eran and Boris, and then we're gonna move to the next one.
I just
Matthew,
want
you'll get
to say, Sorry, Boris. So I just want to say that whether it's a neural network or something else, it doesn't really matter, right? Any system of sufficient complexity is going to be not that transparent and explainable. And I disagree that we are into the era of explainable network. Like I've been working on this for many years, and I think for at least for whatever Tabnine does, like generating code and generating other software-related artifacts, explainability is very, very hard. We are years away from getting explainability. And I'm not sure that we need it to the level that is being discussed here.
Yeah, it's your point was fascinating on, well, if you're outsourcing it to somebody else, you don't know what's going on in the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. All right, Boris.
Yeah, I just wanted to tell some funny story when AI actually went wrong. And it was one bank in Germany that implemented the AI fraud detection. And it started this, and they can't stop it because it stop closing an accounts. Yeah, imagine you have your account in bank, and somehow it detects the fraud on your account and closed a lot of accounts. Like people have a savings there, and it's closed.
That's a hot mess.
Yeah, so that's.
That could be a really bad problem, y'all.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see that. All right, well, Matthew, I want to get to you. And we're here, all of us are in the software and the development space and all that stuff around AI. So we talked a little bit earlier about how we use AI in our companies, and a lot of it is it's a tool, right? It's just like when the power saw came out for carpenters, right? So we now have tools that make us more efficient and automate tedious tasks and allow us to work on the more exciting, fun parts of developing software. And a lot of possibilities have been opened in this area. So I want to dig a little deeper into this use in job automation. And so we asked a question: in what ways do you use AI and ML to drive automation in your job? Select all that apply. We let them do multiple choice. And the top selections are as follows. Number one, IDE and text editor autocomplete, right? So 41%, that's a big one. Written content generation, writing emails, reports, guilty. Code review, 33%. Code and logic generation, kind of like beyond boilerplates, get a little more detailed. So how, Matthew, does this line up with what you see? Anything surprising? And how do you feel about this?
Yeah, this seems about right. I think these are some of the most important use cases from a developer's point of view. I think that the generating code, whether it's autocomplete or more involved generation, it's just basically the next iteration. I hope this isn't controversial, but the next iteration of Stack Overflow, right? And Stack Overflow has its challenges, has its pros and cons, but I think it's been a positive good for developers of all experience levels. And AI-driven coding just kind of streamlines that process a bit. But I think the other ones listed here, I think there's a lot more potential for impact on those. I think written content and code review are very powerful uses of LLMs and AI. Parts of those processes are very time-consuming, but they're very important. And there's less risk involved there of kind of a Ouroboros type situation. Writing code that's been generated and then generating code based on that generated code. Because what they generate isn't going to be executed in production. It's going to be read and consumed by other developers, PMs, and BAs, et cetera. So I think that is a very important use case for LLM, and I'd like to see more of that built into our tools and our processes.
Speaking of which, Eran, what do you think of this?
So it's not surprised that code generation and logic generation, whatever form of code generation is highly popular. I think we have to remember that code is the most expensive content being generated today, right? It's the content that costs the most to generate, right?
Good point. Yeah.
I think the productivity boost that you get from these tools, as we see for our customers, can be as high as automating 30% of their code, right?
Wow.
And getting 30% uplift on your development task is a huge uplift.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, regarding the risk, I think going to Matthew's point, it is to some degree can be thought of as an acceleration of Stack Overflow, but it is, significant acceleration because you are getting code that is generated for your particular context, for your particular environment. List with Tabnine, which is personalized, you get something that is tailored to your setting. And when you get that, you are not like copy pasting random bits of the internet. So actually the quality of the solution is actually higher than what you would adopt by just search and copy paste, right? So,
Yeah, and you don't get any lip from developers smarter than you telling you to read the manual. Look, dude, RTFM, I grew up in that culture. I know.
I want I want to make one comment regarding code review. Actually, this is much harder than it seems to get code review
Yeah.
that is valuable. We've been working on Tab9 code review for a couple of years, I think, and it's really hard to get it to shut up. So to only complain when things are broken in some interesting way, and not complain about mundane things that you don't care to fix. So
I don't
that's
know.
a challenge.
I think that's a developer thing. I mean, I don't. I think it's behaving like developers.
Yeah, but
Good,
it can
good,
help
good.
you to reduce some naming convention issues like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It can get
Yeah.
like the trivial code review tasks out of the way, and again, like make the human, free up the human to make like more inspiring like comments on the code review, in the code review, like architectural concerns or other aspects, not naming convention, trivial stuff.
Yeah,
Very
like
cool.
monkey errors like typos, commented code. I have to deal a lot with this, and I really want to
Yeah.
implement this review.
So having said that, there is a counterintuitive pattern as well. So there is, you have a maker and checker process. So going forward, AI is generating the code and AI is reviewing the code as well. So it's looked a bit risky into a maker checker process because AI is generating and AI is checking as well. So it needs to be human intervention. So maybe going forward, the companies will have two-step review process. Or first review to do the sanity check and all those kind of examples will be done by the AI-based tool. And the second, the human intervention will kick in so that he will get much rich content and the filtered and sanitized content to review to get kind of ease out the job for more valuable job done by the humans rather than doing a naming convention or some kind of a spelling errors in the comments and all.
Yeah, maybe
Kellen,
one
are
thing
y'all-
oh, sorry, Jesse, I kind of butted in, so I'll just
Yo, go
finish
ahead.
my sentence, which is the way we think about that in Tab9 is kind of an inversion of control, where the agent is asking the developer questions, right? So rather than you having to invoke the agent's going to kind of review the code and say, hey, Pratik, what do you think about this thing? I need your help here. I'm not sure. Like, should I complain about this, or is it like by design, right? And so kind of the inversion of control where the agent is asking the human is something interesting that we're working on.
Yeah, and that back and forth is super interesting to think about how it's used and how it's built. I wanted to cover, Kellen. I mean, you've worked at Microsoft, you're now at Silk, you've been in this area for a long time. And Copilot, GitHub Copilot, all that stuff, super interesting. But I'm wondering, like, how are y'all using, like, what are the use cases that you're seeing with AI today? Like, does it match up with what we're talking about here, or are there some other things?
It does match up outside of the code reviews. I'm not seeing as much as the code reviews, but I think it's because I'm more old school relational databases. And those folks do not trust new technology.
Yeah.
We're only as good as our last backup. We're only as good as our database not changing. So many of those folks do not trust it. We are more inclined to have it do the tedious tasks than to do the more advanced tasks, which most people want to aim at too. So as I see for myself, and I know this is my ADHD brain set, that I want to aim it to do the basic code and keep me concise. And then I'll come back through and add in all the more advanced features, the advanced coding that I need to do. But it'll remove a lot of that tedious work that is a brain drain on me. And I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, and that's the whole dinosaur herder thing that you told us about before. Yeah. And it's interesting to have you on here, like the old Oracle Sybase world and, SQL Server, and you got.
They're very hesitant.
They are.
Yeah, they're very hesitant to use it.
Yeah, that's my old world too. Fascinating. Now, is anybody using large language models? Anybody working on those? All right, Kellen and Dr. Tuen, let's start with you. So when we're looking at large language models, we asked a question around that next, because we're in that phase. We want to we talked a little bit about how developers feel about AI and using it. Now we're talking about how they're actually using it. And in a minute, we'll move on and talk about how they're building it. But we asked, does your organization currently use or is considering using large language models? And here's what they said. 1, yes, we are using it, 33%. 2, yes, we're considering it, 28%. no, but we're considering it. And then the rest was we're not considering it. And we even had 12% say not sure. So based on that, like 80% either using or considering large language models, we kind of wanted to understand use case. And number one was around content generation with 64%. And then it was prompt design and engineering at 60%, code gen, and then vector databases. So does anything stand out there to you, Dr. Tuen? Does this line up with kind of what you're thinking and how y'all are using and seeing large language models being used?
Yeah, the most important part is not just the content generation, but also the context-driven content generation. That makes a lot of difference. That means, the organization should have their own database, and the large language models are the foundation models. With the help of the RAG, how I can connect my organization database with the foundation model to generate the content, as they are mentioning, to generate the content which is absolutely relevant for my organization, not a kind of general chat GPT or those kind of things. So that makes the kind of very interesting and important thing for any organization.
All right, very cool. Kellen, you said you were using them too. What do you think?
Well, I'm back behind the scenes. So my concern always is how good is your data? I am starting to get very tired of seeing data swamps. No matter how much people say data lakes is what they're feeding into their, machine learning as well as AI. And we're seeing folks pull directly from relational systems, which I kind of foresaw, but I didn't know it would be happening. A lot of this has to do with data security too. The robust security protocols that are already built into the relational systems requires people to say, I'm keeping this data here. You're not going to bring this into flat file systems that have the robust controls that are more like Office documents. It's just not happening for my folks.
Okay. All right, Matthew.
So we may not 100% agree because I'm more of the new school NoSQL database type of guy. I think we do have some overlap though. So on this list there, I see a vector databases listed as one of the items.
Yep.
And when I see that, I'm a little concerned because if you think about, and I've seen this for many years, even before vector databases, if you think about a typical large organization, they might already have a relational database and a cache and a text search tool, and maybe a NoSQL database, and maybe an analytics database, and on and on and on. And what that can lead to is something called data sprawl, which kind of sounds like maybe a data swamp sort of thing, where you have all these point solutions in your enterprise that have to be upgraded and licensed. They each have their own SDK, security patches, data pipelines between them that have to be built or bought, maintained, and patched as well. So at Couchbase, we see vector search as a database feature and not something you need a whole other database for. So we're a JSON database, but we support SQL queries. We have a built-in cache. We have traditional text search. New is vector search, right? Analytics, mobile, time series, and more. And you need one SDK for that, right? And so we think approach like this can help reduce data sprawl, which can save teams and enterprises time, money. And further, in regards to AI specifically, having your data in fewer places means it's easier to compile and give the most relevant, accurate, up-to-date data over to an LLM, like for a RAG use case, to get better answers and reduce hallucinations. So that's when I see vector databases, I'm a little bit concerned that we're adding yet another server or cluster to our enterprise.
Yeah, good point.
And I think that's where we overlap. Absolutely, because I see less places that you have your data stored. It's less opportunity to have your critical data actually vulnerable. So I'm part of that scene too.
Yeah, you can secure it better that way. Good point.
Yeah, I think the main.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. You first. I've seen you first.
So I think that technology is mature enough to generate real value. So when I look at the list, you have code generation listed there somewhere in the mix. I think it was like things like prompt design and engineering, content generation, code generation, 55%, and vector databases, which is kind of a decadent list. I don't understand exactly the eclectic answers there, but I think that technology is mature enough to generate real value. But to generate real value, also to Matthew's point, you need to put these components together in some sensible way. So you have databases of different kinds that have to kind of talk together in some way. You have to design the prompts in the right way for the models that you pick to talk with the right vector DB. So I think people think this is much easier than it actually is, right? Because the technology is young, and we are all developers. We like to play with stuff, and we think, oh, let me build my marketing content generation internally to my org, because clearly I have the VDB, I have the LLM, I have all the things. I'll just make it work somehow. And pretty quickly you hit a barrier. And we've seen customers that come to Tabnine after they tried to kind of build their own code completion or code generation engine, and kind of like, you get stuck very early. Like the demo is very easy to get to. You get to a demo in a month, but then it's like 2 years of a product that can deliver consistent value. And I think that's true for all verticals here, just marketing and all the other content generation as well.
Yeah. And we'll go, Boris, I know you had your hand up, and then I want to move into, that's a good segue into how developers are actually building AI. And we'll get to that in a minute, but go ahead, Boris.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I agree with you totally, because a lot of customers, they have an old and new technology, so SQL and NoSQL. But the main challenge, for example, in European market is everyone wants to have this LLM, huge models and AI on site, so on premises, on their service, not like sending data to somewhere. It's a really crucial part of this. So this is what I wanted to mention.
Mm-hmm.
And for the code generation, there are a lot of some, not a lot, but some customers that want to rebuild their really old legacy code base, like built from even using COBOL language, not involving a lot of new and old developers. So AI can really help here as well.
Very cool. All right. Well, I want to move on into how developers build AI. That was a great conversation. But we've talked a little bit about how developers feel about all this artificial intelligence. We've talked a little bit about how they're using it. Now I want to talk about how they're building it. We talked earlier, developers are the ones actually building this thing, right? All over the world, people are trying everywhere. And so, to the point that Eran was just talking a little bit about, we wanted to understand how many developers have ever tried to build something that they would consider artificial intelligence, right? In any sense, Kellen. And the results were, she's like, nope, not even a little bit. I like it. I love it. But yeah, so 64%, funny enough, 64% said yes, and only 36% said no. And of those who thought they had or built something they consider to be AI, the top learning rated techniques they used or implemented were one, supervised learning. So this is linear regression, vector machines, and decision trees. Unsupervised learning, so hierarchical clustering, k-means, principal component analysis, neural networks, we talked a little bit about, feed forward, convolutional, those types of things, and then natural language processing, so NLP. That's kind of where it happens. Now, Pratik, have you built AI? Would you put yourself in that yes category or no category?
Yes category. But I would
okay, what did you do?
I've seen many developers that are building lexical analysis for doing a spell check, and they're calling it AI. But I'm not in that.
Yeah. Kellen agrees. Not AI.
Was a regular expression, right?
Wow, I'm an expert.
I don't like this gatekeeping. People can call AI whatever they think is AI, right? Now it's like
depends.
Don't be so
Depends
judgy.
if they're charging for it. How's that?
Got it. Aaron telling us all, don't be so judgy. I love it. Pratik, what did you build?
So basically, so I can't tell you exactly what we build, but mostly I have used onto the supervised learning, or kind of I call it semi-supervised learning, because when you are a governed business or heavily governed business, generally supervised learning or a semi-supervised learning suits us. So most of the models that we build, that's mostly around the predictive analysis or the risk modeling or the credit decisioning, what we are building the model on. It's primarily built around semi-supervised or supervised learning. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Dr. Tuin, you had your hand up.
Yeah. So what is very important to understand that what is AI? I think that lies the big difference. What is machine learning? What is AI? So AI should be something fundamental. If we go at the history, how the AI has come, or what's the purpose of AI, it is about to take the decisions. That's most important thing. If you are taking a real good decision by applying the technology, it is AI. Otherwise, as Pratik was mentioning, simple spell check or lexical check, people are claiming it as AI. That's absolutely old wine and new bottle. Any analytics, any machine learning, any model development, you call it AI. That's not exactly an AI. So That's very important, that what for I'm leveraging technology. And then the developers can claim that, yes, I'm really applying the models on.
Okay.
Just to
Awesome.
add to that, I really feel struggle sometimes to demarcate like when the rules becomes a rules engine and at what point they become an ML or AI model. So it's a very blurred line. Like when you call your model a rules engine and when you call your model a AI or ML, that's a very blurred line. And I think no one knows a demarcation into it.
That's a good point.
I think we've been in Tabnine, we've been building, AI code generation stuff and support for SDLC since 2018, 2019, maybe. So we've seen different generations of technology, different generations of maturity in the technology. That's interesting. I think we're serving more than 1 million monthly active devs now on the platform in Tabnine, which are enjoying the AI improvements that we deliver, but the pace of change, like the rate in which we replace models, the things that we make available behind the scenes is massive. I think we just launched today the ability to switch models in Tabnine chat, so you can actually switch between models and compare the results that you get in different models. Yeah, and so I think people underestimate how hard it is, like to layer the layer cake of AI into actually working product.
Very cool. All right, so we're almost out of time. I do want to ask a question, and I think if everybody takes like 30 seconds, we can get through everybody on this one, because I really want y'all to tell me what you think. As we're closing out, I want to understand where you think AI is going to go. Right? Where are we headed to? Right on the back of Eran's discussion on how fast things are going to change. Right? The popularity of AI, these tools are not going to go down. They're going to keep skyrocketing. We saw the growth rate. We saw how this is going to explode. So when we all are on this call again together, hopefully next year, talking about the latest trend report, what do you think will have happened between now and then? Real quick, because we're almost out of time. Dr. Tuin, you go first.
Yeah, 3 things. Number 1, artificial general intelligence. What is that thing? I don't need to develop the models based on the past data the way I'm doing it. How I can create a general intelligence. Number 1. Number 2 is about how I can not only about how I can consider the variables from the different perceptive senses, like olfactory senses, like hearing senses. There are also a lot of variables there. So how can they be a part of the model? Number 3 is about the conscious modeling, like what is happening inside us, how I can model that thing as well. So these are the 3 things I believe are coming up front.
Very cool. All right, Pratik, you had next.
So next, I will take the same time, but I will make more than one prediction, maybe 3 or 4, because I recently made those predictions into one of the big conferences, and it's close to my heart. Like first prediction is like going forward, reading code will be way more important than writing the code. So it is doing a paradigm shift into the engineering style. Right now, we were craving about writing the best code. Going forward, reading code skills will be way more important than writing the code. The second prediction is like pair programming will be the default mode of engineering practices, because you'll always be with the pair of an invisible AI or LLM model like the Copilot or anything. So pair programming will be the default mode of engineering going forward. Okay. Third prediction, if your data is not ready for Gen AI, your organization is not ready for Gen AI. So don't get into the hallucination of implementing Gen AI if your data engineering capability is not there. Third, we all are talking about AI, ML, Gen AI, LLM. Are the organizations talking about building AI confidence into our engineers or even the non-technical staff? So my fourth and foremost prediction is like enterprise needs to start thinking around building AI confidence in all their staffs, whether they are technical or non-technical or frontline workers, because AI is coming and embedded into each and everything nowadays.
That's awesome. And you did take a little bit of time, and you also were very prepared. I can tell you've said that before the conference. That's awesome. All right, Boris, what do you think?
I think that AI will take place like each organization when they own on-premises AI assistant, and we should be ready to teach AI models to work with the data of this organization, because it's really important how people can and how company can streamline their services with just automating their and resolving monkey job. That's my prediction.
Awesome. All right, Kellen, and then we'll let Eran wrap us up. And Matthew, I think. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kellen. Don't forget Matthew too.
I'm not going to forget Matthew. He's down there.
I do see collaboration with developers and AIs continuing to advance. I like that idea. I like the concept of having somebody that you can peer code with. I also see a lot more in the way of AI with visuals and voice. I think, a picture is worth 1,000 words, video even more so, and I think AI will continue to grow in that area. The next one is to do more with less. Businesses will continue to invest there where they can get revenue from it, that they can automate a lot of things, that they may be investing in people, but that doesn't mean that jobs are going away. No matter if they say 87 million jobs are going away, there's another 92 million that will be created by AI. And that's kind of my full
Good
spiel
point.
going
Good
forward.
point. Yep. All right, Iran.
Yeah, so to go off Boris's point, actually, I think we're going to see organizations as they adopt AI care deeply about personalization, making sure that the AI is matching what they do in the organization. So it's not enough to generate code. You need to generate code like we do here, right? Code that matches my environment. I think organizations are going to care much more about privacy. Right now, it's kind of like, Wild West of things being sent to ChatGPT or elsewhere. And like things are, once the value is here, we proved it, things are going to converge a bit and going to care much more about privacy, what gets sent where and why. And third thing that people are going to care about is sort of IP protection. Again, if you just generate code based on GPL code elsewhere or something else, in Europe especially, the kind of legal stance on this is not clear, copyright cases, etc. So people are going to care much more about what gets into their code base and what are the legal implications of that. So I think that's my prediction. Maybe just to wrap things up, another prediction is that the granularity of delegation is going to change. I think it's not going to be about like small code completion anymore. Maybe it's going to be delegation of larger modules, larger kind of entire programs. Maybe to go off Kalen's point, maybe it's going to be a drawing of my UI and getting the UI generated. I just write on a napkin and the code gets generated automatically, right? So that's my prediction. Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Matthew, wrap us up, man.
Yeah, so Aaron just touched on it a bit, and we didn't touch on it very much in this whole session, but I think we'll see, this is my big prediction. I got two. I think we'll see some of the legal, ethical, privacy approaches and regulation really start to emerge. I think the Wild West is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. I think there's going to be probably some high-profile incident or incidents as the catalyst for these. Hopefully nothing dangerous, like hooking up an LLM to a surgical robot on a live patient or something like that, but something very high profile is going to start to give a little pushback of this. So that's my big prediction. A smaller one, number two, I think developers are going to start building what I just call adaptive applications a little more. That may not be the name for it, but you're going to see websites and mobile apps that are much more conveniently personalized without you as a user having to front load enter a bunch of information ahead of time. And many of those applications will be built with Couchbase, of course.
Wow, right at the end. I love it. And we are out of time with that. Great conversation, y'all. Thank you so much for diving into the world of AI with us today. Thank you, everyone out there, for tuning in. I trust you enjoyed the conversation and got some real good insights into what's going on in the world of AI, how developers are using it, how they feel about it, and how they're building it every day. We hope that you gathered some information that you can use to improve your own business and the workflows that you have with your teams. I'd like to give another huge thank you to the entire panel. Y'all were awesome today. Thank you so much for the great conversation.
Absolutely.
Best practices, insights. And a huge thank you to our sponsoring partners, Couchbase and Tab9. Both you guys, thanks for being here. Now, if you're out there, I would like for you to remember you can go to dzone.com and download our Enterprise AI Trend Report or see more events just like this at dzone.com/events. And if you would, just stay on for just one more minute and fill out a survey. We're always looking to improve. And no, the survey was not written by AI. Thanks.